Well, looky here. What do we got? We have a guitar from China. But it's not a cheap Chinese import. It's an inexpensive Chinese copy. Well, no, sorry, let me start again. It's not a copy. It's a hammer guitar XT series Sunburst ATX. It's got hammer pickups on it, which are very smooth, and it says made in China on the back. Made in, cut that, and the neck is of rosewood. Very nice neck and very nice thickness as well, and the body is solid mahogany with a maple flame on top. Now, very hard to find information on these guitars because Hammer started off making a 6-string bass guitar, and then they went into making all sorts of weird shaped guitars, and they got quite a good name. Cheap Trick, do you remember Cheap Trick? Cheap Trick used to play hammers, and some other famous people played hammers, but then they went into trouble and closed down. But this, the closest I can date this is 2006. They're still doing Chinese imports of this. I think there's a website up and running, but there's something strange about the website. But to all intents and purposes, it's a lovely guitar, Harmer pickups, Harmer electrics. It's come in to me because of electrical problems. I'm going to check to see what they are. I'm going to do a full checkup on the whole thing, but I think at the moment what I'll do is I'll just look at the electrical problems while you're with me. So put on my amplifier. No, it feels okay. The amp is at 1/4. Tone there. No. Not much happens in that first one. Cuts it off again. There's a bit of crackling there. That's the tone control, so obviously that would be the volume control for the front, I think. Yeah, it's off. Well, what's happening? What's happening? All on, right? Nothing on. All on. Nothing on. All on. And that's tone. So that's switched up, right? So that will be everybody. But I was expecting something to be between those. Right, okay, switch up. Right. Right, okay, so back. When it's back, this does nothing, because that controls that one. And that's the same. So the tone control controls both pickups, so everything's okay there. I was a bit confused at the beginning the way they had it with the switch there. So there's some, he tells me there's some electrical problem. Let me put it up to, that's 3/4 volume in my amp. I don't see anything. There's not much there. Well, I'm going to take the electrics apart to see what's behind it, putting it back down to 1/4 volume, but it's actually very nice sounding so far. Let's just go and look. It's very high action. right? You could drive a bus through there, right? Pickups are too low. You could drive an armored tank through there, right? So that's not good. And let's just check the neck straightness. All right, you've got an underbow like that. A bit too much. I think you drive probably a scooter onto there. So we wouldn't be driving anything onto there. So let's get this thing apart electrically. I'll bring you in, zoom you in, and see what the problem could be. But I don't see anything. Let me put this up again. Wet finger. Nothing. We'll see when I get down to it. Okay, let's dig a little deeper into the hammer. What's that? MC hammer, is it? It's amazing. If you remember MC Hammer, you're showing your age. My goodness, I couldn't. There was one tune he did. I nearly said one song he did. I don't remember any songs that these guys did. But there was one that I sort of half remember. Anyway, didn't he do one of the movie tracks? Anyway, I'm cutting the strings off to get down a little bit deeper into this. And look, I didn't loosen them again. Bad that I am. Hey, and see who's popped up to have a good nosy when the strings are getting played with. Hello, Georgie Girl. Welcome on board. Now, I'm going to take these strings off. So, the gentleman seems to like leaving big long trails on the end of them. Some people like that, some people don't. How do you do your strings? Yes, I know, Georgie Girl, I'm complaining because it should take 10 seconds to take off the strings and it's costing me blood now. Right, okay. Right, all the more reason now for you to tell me how you tie your strings. Because that was madness. 2 knots in the string and wrap round backwards. Right, okay, so that's the head. I'm going to just check to see that it's tight on now. Alright. Just going to double check that they're tight. I'm only going to finger tighten them just to make sure they haven't loosened over the years. Right, they haven't. They're perfectly good. Now what I'm going to do, give it a little bit of a rusty, because it's a bit, right, thank you. Bit of a dusty now, so I'm going to take off the truss rod cover. Because I need to just tighten up the neck a bit, because it's underbowed, as I mentioned earlier. We have a jar. It has a jar of its own, very special jar. It's actually quite nice if you ever see it in the shops. It's actually quite nice. You chop up some peppers, boil them till they're soft, and then give them a quick fry and get them really dry. And then you put that on them. What is that? Can you see it? Red pesto sauce. Tastes lovely. And it makes a great guitar string holder at the same time. Right, let's get this. Probably has never been tightened, which is not a bad thing. Okay, let's test that. 1.5 turns. Beautiful. Perfect. Just a little touch it needed. Okay. So the bigger problem is going to be trying to figure out what this electrical issue is. I can't see it having. I can't see what it could be at first glance, but we'll check all the wiring. Theoretically, it could be the person's amplifier. So if I can't find anything, I'll get the chappie to bring his amplifier with him. I'm going to take those off and have a quick look at them. It's Chinese made. That's, you know, they're getting more and more proficient in their manufacturing. Look at that finish. That finish and the edge binding and everything like that, that's lovely. And people only buy them if they work, so they must work. There's absolutely nothing to see in there. You can hear a little bit of buzzing, but that buzzing is my amplifier picking up some static noises. There's nothing there, nothing. Nothing at all, nothing. Exactly what it should be. Can't see anything there. I didn't need that one, that was just the one he mentioned. And there's nothing there, not movements. Right, so I'll put one screw back on it again. Take it back off and have a look at the wiring inside to see if maybe any of, oh, wrong one. Let's have a pair of glasses on that helps me see. If you can see for yourself in there, the wiring is pretty neat, and it only, when I touch the live, is all that I'm hearing a buzzing, which is what you expect. None of the earth. Yeah, no, all fine in there. And it's got, the black paint is shielding paint. It's black shielding paint. So it's shielded. So what I'll have to do is ring the chappie to see if he can maybe describe in more detail what the problem is, because I can't find the problem with it. So the next job is the neck straight. Tuners are okay, tightened. The wiring, as far as I can see, is okay. There's a chunk taken out of it that you could drive an army lorry into. Did I say that? Yeah, right, okay. There's a huge chunk taken out of the edge there, and I just wait until it gets into focus. Patience, Austin. There's a huge chunk there taken out of the edge, which I'm going to have to fill. All right, so I'll put everything back together and come back to you. That's a lovely piece of mahogany. Before I put it all back together, I found another little thing that's happened to it that needs to be fixed. It has been dropped. Can you see that? It has been dropped on its bottom and twisted. And so that needs to come out and filled and straightened. So we'll get on with those. Right, down to the handheld camera now. Another little problem I found, if you look very close beside that, you'll see a crack. See in the middle of the camera, dead center, there's a crack just there. Just there, see that crack? Now, not a big deal, but what's happened is these were sitting way up high. When I took those off, they were sitting far too high. But when I tightened them down, which is what they are now, see, of course, don't forget, look how good I am using a proper size screwdriver. Not using a smaller screwdriver that's not necessary. Come on, get in focus. Yeah, I screwed them right down to the body, but because they haven't been put in properly, this no longer fits. So you try to put it on, but one side is now twisted. This is twisted, that post is twisted that way. Now I am not tempted to do anything major with this, because if I do, I could make that crack worse. So what I'm going to do is wind them back up to the top again, and they fit then because the posts have come out further. And then when I go down, I'll show you it on the other view, when I go down I'll tap that with a nylon hammer as I go downwards, and that'll just put enough pressure on it to get it to where I want it to be. In the meantime, I'm going to leave these up high. It's one of the things, just use a proper size screwdriver. For these big ones, use a big screwdriver, because I hate to see those damaged with a little screwdriver. Just one of my pet hates. So that is, this will now fit on it. Just bring it right up to the top. So obviously the posts are coming out like that, and when you tighten the posts in, they're going in like that. So what I'll do is I'll tighten it down to the right height and tap it down, because whenever I tighten, I'll just show you, I don't know whether you can see it on the camera or not, but when I tighten it down, it doesn't go down with it because it's being held. See, it's not going down with it because it's being held. So I'll tap it down, and that'll put just enough pressure on it to get it right. But the thing is, I can't tap it down until I get the strings on. So we'll just put it all back together now and then come back to you. Find these little things from time to time. Okay, I'm going to put this in the right position now. It's going to be a little bit of guesswork, because you don't want to do it too many times. But this side I'm going to bring down first, because it's the easiest one to do. Doesn't fit very well, that one. Maybe the strings being on will help push the other side down, but I don't think so, because there's quite a bend in the pillars. Now that's where let me just see, bring it down a bit more. Actually, why is it sitting way up there? It really needs to go right down to the body. Right, so that's a sad sign, because if I have to tighten it right down to the body, it means more stress on it. Right, okay. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'll sit right down to the body and I'll tap it, because it'll be easier to bring it up than it will be to take it down. Mind you, that's pretty close to where I would like the action to be. Where is that? There's it. Yeah, that's pretty close. I don't want to play with that too much. It's actually pretty close. I'd like that to go down. Oh, I see, they're both jammed now. Let me just see. Oh, that's too far down, that's why. Right, okay, so that has to come up. Go away, you're for another guitar. And that too, you can come up. Oh, let's just tap it. I've got a feeling I'm going to have to tune it up now. I'm going to put the strings on it now completely, get it in tune, and then I can play with that a bit more, set it up. And then I'm going to intonate it. I did it again. I did it again. Nobody told me. Nobody shouted. YouTube people, you didn't shout and say, Austin, you forgot to polish the frets. No, I didn't hear anybody shouting and telling me that. So tied the strings back, polishing. The frets are perfect. I did check them. There was one that I might just want to check again, but I think it was fine. Yeah, perfect. I did check them at the beginning, but they just need a clean and a polish and the fretboard oiled. But nobody in YouTube land told me. Nobody. I scared myself last night because I was working with super glue and I was super gluing a big area of super glue, and Georgie Girl came up and I said, "You don't like this smell," and I held out the little thing that I was putting on and she sniffed it, but she went and started to choke, and I sort of felt, oh gosh, I shouldn't have let her get so close. So for about 3 or 4, maybe 10 seconds, she was coughing and spluttering, and I thought, oh God, I poisoned her. But within 2 seconds, she was back up again, and she was chasing the strings, but it did scare me. So she's not getting near anything to do with the oils or strings or anything, because it made me all sorts of trauma, mouth-to-mouth resuscitation on Georgie Girl for an hour, and ambulances and vets and fighting with the police. Why don't you take care of my... See how dirty that... Why won't you take my cat to the emergency room? You know, I can see myself fighting with the police. Why not? Why not? She's a human being almost. But fortunately I didn't have to fight with the police, but it did worry me. I must be even more careful. She has a catio. This is just soap and water, very dilute soap and water. I did say I should be telling people what I'm doing. I'm polishing the frets, taking off the corrosion and reducing it. But she has a catio, which is to the side of my place. And it's not bolted to the side of my place, but it's wedged. I didn't want to drill holes in the side. So it's wedged, and it's also got wooden slats wedged against it like a fulcrum. But she hasn't been allowed out this last 2 days because the weather has been so vile and windy that I couldn't let her out. So maybe I'm too precious with her, but she never gets outside the door. Somebody spilled some super glue there by the look of it. Let me just take that away. Just concentrate on this. It wasn't me, by the way, because I didn't super glue this. This is, by the way, is 2500 wet and dry, but I'm only using it dry at the moment. That's better. And a little bit of a polish. Now, my favorite bit, I'm putting oil on the fretboard, and oil on the fretboard should be done once a year to your guitar. It's to save the fretboard from cracking. Some people use wax, some people use boiled linseed oil. I have boiled linseed oil, which I'll use, but I just like this, and I like the dispenser, and I like the way it goes on, and I like the way it smells. And whenever a client gets back his guitar, he gets back a guitar that smells a little bit lemony and clean and nice and all that sort of thing. So there you go. That won't remain shiny, but this is, from the best I could find out, I think this is a 2006 guitar, because they sell them all over the place. I did a search everywhere, and I found out it was mahogany body, and I found out that they stopped making them this style. This is what they call a natural sunburst without the red extreme around the edges, which I think is far nicer than the sunburst with the red. So it's 2006, but it's what I would call, when those dinges are fixed at the back, I would say it's near mint condition. Near mint condition. And a near mint condition, one of these is going for £500. So they're not cheap Chinese knockoffs. They're actually guitars that are still sought after today. Now, I did say, maybe I'm repeating myself, but if I'm repeating myself, you got the volume control now, you can turn it off. They still have a website up and running today, but it's just for the they call these Monacos, this style of guitar, a Monaco, but I don't think it's made as well as this. I think this is probably one of the better quality ones that were made before Fender sold the company. Fender owned the company, bought it up, made a lot of cheap guitars with it, and then got rid of it. Fender just buying and selling things like that, you know. Acquisition market. Right, so that's it. Now I'm going to tune that up. I might as well leave the thing running and get my rusty steed going here. I might as well put this one on. I don't know, can you see that? I don't know if you can see that or not. I'll turn it around. We'll get it tuned up and we'll get it intonated. Right. Where's me plectrum? Now, for people who don't do this often, when you're tuning your guitar, those 3 strings are usually wound, and those are the ones you want to put your finger on the 12th fret and then stretch it up, not terribly strong, because it will stretch. So we lost a tone and a half there. That's an E now. Stretching it again. Lost a half a tone. Because the stretch, the winding makes it stretch, but also when you put new strings on at the top part, it makes it they go tighter at the top. They're actually perfect. The other thing is that tuning changes when you lift it. That's sharp now. It's sharp. Yep, sharp. That's because the weight of the guitar is pressing down on the strings. But let's see if it's affected the intonation. It shouldn't have. No. Now what's the string height light? Perfect. The string height is nice the whole way up. And I know the learner's going to be doing this, so I'm not going to go crazy and bring it down to the very minimum, because there's not going to be any wild Jimi Hendrix playing down at this end for a while. They say you should bring it down to the best it could be, but what happens if it starts buzzing? So you're better not. You're better getting it to play for the person getting it set up for the person who's going to play it, not for the person who's not going to play it. Right, so what else is to be done to it? Its intonation's fine. I'm going to cut the strings off right at the tip. I don't want any more blood. So the only thing is now to contact the owner and see if he can give me any more. Oh, yes, right. I'll work on this at the back now. So switch off the amp. What I'm going to do is fill this, you see, and I don't want any loose wood. Although, mind you, there doesn't seem to be too much loose wood in it. see. No, it's pretty solid in there. It's not deep enough to put a plug in. It's not quite deep enough to put a plug in. So I'm going to put some fillers in it. I tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to mix up some of my new JB weld, which turns extremely hard, and put it in that. But I won't bore you with doing that on camera. Alright, I'll come back to you when everything's ready to plug together again. Well, I came back anyway. JB weld all mixed up. The problem is it stinks. It really does. Do you know if you're walking down the street and you find a place where men go to piss in a corner at night time, you're walking past it? That's the kind of smell it is. Like that pissy human smell that's been stale and been there for days on end. Ugh. And I'm going to have to dip my fingers into this now. So, here we go. Alright, okay. I'm leaving it like that. Needs a good 24 hours. And by that time I'll have spoken to the customer, client. Bye-bye. Oh, we've got a little bit of battery left. So the hammer's going home. I can't find anything wrong. The electrics, the jack plug and everything was cleaned, and I've lubricated the switches. But the gentleman brought his amp and the cable along, and I can't get it not to work. Although the amp does have a lot of problems with the switches that are dirty and they need to be cleaned, but it's overall this is a lovely guitar. I've quite fallen in love with the hammer. And the amp is a Marshall, the beautiful. And you can see I've got it sitting on the bass, and the strap is clever. It's round more to the tail, so it means you can sit it on your knee in your bass, you know. Hard to play whenever you're standing up without a strap, you know. Makes me realize I need to get a new amp, because my Rocket Music one, which is a very cheap amp, it's loud, but when you play the strings, that's pure compared to my amp, which sounds a bit like it's being played through a cheap transistor radio. So I'm gonna have to go out and look for an amplifier. Oops. New strings, you see.